We are just 3 days from the final election of the 2022 cycle, the Senate race in Georgia. Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock facing off against Republican challenger Herschel Walker in Tuesday's runoff, I should say. We've seen record turnout in early voting with more than 1.8 million Georgians casting ballots already. CNN's Diane Gallagher is in Atlanta for us. Diane, what are Warnock and Walker doing on their final days of the campaign trail? I have to think this is a sprint to the finish.
Yeah, it's literally the final home stretch here for this runoff election. So it's maybe not as busy as you thought it would be for both candidates. I will say the incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock holding several events today in Atlanta and in Augusta, Georgia, and also several tomorrow as well. But he has traditionally kept a much more aggressive schedule than his opponent, Republican Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker actually doesn't have any public events that are open to the press listed today, the Saturday before Election Day. He does have an event on his schedule tomorrow in Loganville, Georgia. But look, the Walker campaign has typically had a more relaxed campaign schedule than the Warnock campaign has across this entire 4-week runoff period. And that's even during the early voting period that just ended on Friday. You mentioned more than 1.85 million Georgians have already cast their ballots. They hit a single day voting record yesterday on Friday with more than 350,000 votes. And that day, well, that beat Monday and Tuesday, which also set records themselves. Jim, I should mention, though, that, look, while we're setting these single daily records, it does look as if they're going to miss the early vote threshold that was set in the 2021 runoff. Now, of course, that was after a presidential election. There were 2 Senate races then, but part of that is because of this compressed 4-week schedule with just 5 mandated days of early voting instead of 3 weeks worth.
All right, very good. And a lot on the line, of course. Diane Gallagher, thanks so much. We appreciate it. And joining me now to talk about this is Republican strategist, former RNC Communications Director Doug Heye, and Democratic strategist and former Clinton White House aide Keith Boykin. Doug, let me start with you first. President Biden said that Herschel Walker doesn't deserve to be in this race. Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, a Republican, was not holding back. He said he couldn't bring himself to vote for Herschel Walker. You know, when I was down there in Atlanta a month ago, I mean, this is what Georgia Republicans were saying. What do you think the GOP should learn from this runoff, this Senate race?
What we should learn from the entire elections from last month. Mitch McConnell was right. Candidate quality matters. And, you know, in campaigns and in football, time of possession is important. Herschel Walker knows that better than anybody. But he's been on defense. He hasn't been on offense. And every day of this runoff, he's been on defense. He's struggled with any kind of a quality message. He's not getting good news out there. He says bizarre things. Bizarre is actually a kind way to put it. So Warnock is in the driver's seat here, and it's why Mitch McConnell, when we write the autopsy, the RNC's looking at this now, of what went wrong in 2022. Quality of candidates is top of the list.
All right, and Keith, let me turn to you. Van Jones has called this a decision between the pride of a community and the shame of a community. What do you see in this runoff between these two candidates?
Well, I think he's right, Jim. You know, I don't know anyone in Georgia or anywhere else who honestly, seriously thinks that Herschel Walker from Texas is qualified to be United States Senator from Georgia. Never mind the fact that he hasn't lived in the state and hasn't voted in the state. But clearly, he has no experience, no preparation, no knowledge to be able to take on this job. And he's going against somebody like Raphael Warnock, who's an experienced legislator, who has worked in the community, who has voted in the community, and people can see the difference. So at this point, it's not a question about persuasion; it's about turnout. Anything can happen in this election. And we've seen that in previous elections in the past. It's just a question of which campaign can get out its voters to the polls through the early voting, which has already ended, and all the way till Tuesday.
And Doug, and then there was this moment when former President Barack Obama seized on some unusual remarks from Herschel Walker about werewolves. Let's watch.
I don't know if you know vampires are cool people, are they not? But I'm tell you something that I found out. A werewolf can kill a vampire. Do you know that? I never knew that, so I didn't want to be a vampire anymore. I want to be a werewolf.
Mr. Walker has been talking about issues that are of great importance to the people of Georgia. like whether it's better to be a vampire or a werewolf. This is a debate that I must confess I once had myself. When I was 7. Then I grew up. As far as I'm concerned, he can be anything he wants to be, except for a United States Senator.
Doug, your thoughts? Werewolf, vampire, which is worse?
Well, Senate is worse. This is exactly
Plenty of both.
And this is what McConnell was talking about, and he was sort of forced to go along with Herschel Walker. He very clearly was going to be the nominee in Georgia. Other candidates, it wasn't clear if Dr. Oz was going to win and so forth. But this is what McConnell warned about. And so we're talking about werewolves and vampires and things like that.
Yeah.
This is not normal stuff, and this is the lesson that Republicans need to learn is the last 5 years, whatever you think about Donald Trump's policies, the last 5 years, Republicans have had sort of the Addams family running in race after race, whether it's president, Senate, Congress. You look at Madison Cawthorn, for example, in North Carolina. You need to turn away from these candidates, get to serious legislators, and then Georgia will be red again.
You might start winning some races and some
Go figure.
close contests. Yeah, and Keith, let me ask you this, because I think this is just on a totally different subject, a fascinating development. Democrats moving forward with President Biden's proposal of making South Carolina the first state to hold a primary. As somebody who's covered a lot of I've been covering presidential races all the way back to 2004. We certainly would like, as campaign reporters, we certainly would like to start covering these races in a warm climate like South Carolina. If I could just speak selfishly for my fellow political reporters, well, what do you think? Is that a good idea?
Well, I have a similar bias that you do, Jim. I went to college at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire, and I covered the 1984 presidential campaign as a student reporter and worked on the 1988
You're not that old.
campaign for Michael Dukakis. So I don't want to go back to New Hampshire either, or Iowa for that matter. And South Carolina, honestly, is just a much more representative state for the Democratic Party. You know, the majority of the voters in South Carolina are African American in the Democratic Party. And the majority of people who are contributing to the Democratic Party these days in terms of being the most loyal supporters are African Americans as well. President Biden won his first primary in the South Carolina primary in 2020. So I think it's a return of the favor, if you will, but also it's an important statement about the diversity of the party because he's also putting Nevada and Michigan in the lineup too. And I'm not sure if all those states will end up approving this. I know Iowa and New Hampshire jealously guard their first in the nation role. But I think it's time. It's long past time. Our country is much more diverse than Iowa and New Hampshire. Our party is definitely much more diverse than Iowa and New Hampshire. It's time to have a primary schedule that aligns with the interest of the people who elect our leaders.
And Doug, let me just very quickly, a subject that is on the minds of Republicans. Kevin McCarthy, is he going to get the votes to become Speaker?
Look, that's the million-dollar question. What we know is he's the most likely, but we don't know if that's a 51% chance, 49%, or what that number is yet. His job is to go out and get those votes right now, and that's why the next month is going to be.
Is there a plan B?
No, there isn't a plan B, and that's actually his best option right now, is there is no plan B.
That actually helps him.
Yeah, it does.
Because it might narrow things down. All right, Doug Heye, Keith Boykin, thanks to both of you very much. We appreciate it.